Welcome to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series, brought to you by the C.T. Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. We're having a conversation about work-life balance, how to navigate and overcome challenges within your career, and how to make business more accommodating to a diverse workforce.
Hi, you guys. Welcome to Working Wisdom with the UH Bauer College. My name is Brianna Garcia, and I am a student in the Program for Excellence in Selling. And today I have Brianna Garcia, who is also a Bauer alum, who was also in the Program for Excellence in Selling. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank you
to
for
meet
having
you.
me here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to get to know you a little bit more and talk about this cool relationship with business and pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. So to get started, tell me a little bit more about yourself. So how was your experience at UH?
Well, it was wonderful. I graduated in 1999, so it's been a while. But while I was here, I made the most of it. And I think the biggest advice that I would give anybody here is just to try to get involved as in many activities as you can and try to network, especially with a lot of the professors here or anyone that you meet outside of the university.
Right. Yeah, so whenever you came to it, did you automatically go into being a business major and wanting to pursue business? Or what did you have in mind when you were graduating?
Well, I was a late bloomer. I did not go to school right after I graduated from high school. So it took me some time because one of the thoughts was I didn't want to waste my parents' money and get a degree in something that I wasn't going to actually do. So I actually got out and worked and really had a passion for helping people and trying to move the sales negotiation from where someone is like dead set, no, we're not buying from you, to yes, we love your product and we're going to buy from you. So for me, that's always been a joy and a fulfillment, is to, I guess, change their ideas, because sometimes a no means yes. They just don't have enough information from you. Right. And so it's your job as a salesperson to move that sell to a yes.
Absolutely. And so coming out of school, once you graduated, did you already have a mindset on the pharmaceutical industry?
No, actually, when I was at the Program for Excellence in Selling, I was one of the top producers for my class. Okay. And so I was with it was a software sales company that I had actually brought into the career fair. And so they hired me for their sales division. And I was actually going to move out to San Francisco. But at the time I was dating someone, and he's like, that maybe not be a good idea. And so I stayed back. We ended up getting married, have 2 wonderful children.
Wow.
And I ended up working for the software sales company, but my whole geography and my territory was in California. So I did a lot of traveling. When I came back, I really thought about it long term and thought, what could I do that would enable me to be still a sales representative and a mom? Mm-hmm. And pharmaceutical sales, to me, fit that job. And I think whenever you're looking at careers, you always got to find a career that's going to fit into your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Find something that you're passionate about, but also understand how you function and how you live and what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. And for me, pharmaceutical sales has always been a lot of joy.
Yeah, absolutely. Similarly, I'm passionate about the industry, and I'm super excited to jumpstart my career in that industry. But a lot of people don't have a lot of knowledge in pharmaceuticals. So did you already have some prior knowledge to the industry, knowing that you decided to go for and pursue it?
No, I actually got into a small mom and pop shop. It was a cough and cold and prenatal vitamins, and I tried interviewing with all the big companies like Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Pfizer, and all of them were telling me the same thing, and I got a lot of no's, and they would say, you just don't have enough experience. And I was thinking, well, I've been working in software sales. Well, that's not the same. And they really wanted, some background in showing that you had won awards and different things like that. So I didn't have a whole lot of experience, and so when I got into the smaller pharmaceutical company, I was able to, from there, to springboard into a larger pharma company because I had that experience. So it may not have been because I had to take a huge cut in pay. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, in my mind I was thinking, what am I doing? But in the long run, it was the best thing I did because that job showed me how to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if I'd have gone into a big pharma company, it would not have given me the tools and the assets that I needed to succeed in that industry and be relative. Because they were so small, they were real intense, and you had to know your stuff inside and out. And it really, and I remember sitting in an interview when I went to go with Bayer, and I realized that as much as I didn't like my manager at that time because the ride-alongs and the feedback were so crucial and so hard. I mean, sometimes I'd leave there crying because he was so hard on me. But at that point when I was at Bayer, I realized that toughness that he had on me was because he saw something in me that would make me succeed later in life.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, I know a lot of people probably are intimidated being a business major going into the industry. You know, you're having to speak with physicians and healthcare professionals. What was the most challenging thing for you on that aspect, you know, coming from a business language and transitioning into some medical terminology?
It's still something I struggle with.
Yeah.
it's hard. But, and the reason being because, like in my whole division right now at Gilead, they're all tenured senior reps, and they're so smart. And two of the girls that are on my team are PAs and NPs. So I'm the only sales representative that has sales background on the team. And so it is hard. The biggest thing that you have to understand is the knowledge, and you have to work 10 times harder to understand the science of the drug or of the product that you're selling. And I've been very fortunate that I have friends in the industry that I can call on and pull them aside and say, look, I don't understand this. Tell me the mechanism of action. How does this work for my patients? If you were selling this, how would you sell it? What are my biggest benefits? What are the biggest features that I have of this drug? And so when you can find people like that in the industry, everybody is so willing to help you, whether it's your manager, a coworker, or somebody that you connect with. Reach out to them and find out how you can better understand your product. And I think if you have the will to succeed and the determination and the perseverance, you'll make it.
Absolutely. I think that's with anything,
Yeah.
you know. But absolutely with pharmaceutical sales, it's a challenge.
It is a challenge, but it's very rewarding. And once you get in, it's up to you to make it work and stick.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So what about just the tough times that you've had going into the doctor's offices? I know sometimes, you know, you don't have as much time. You have a few seconds, 30 seconds. How do you effectively go into the offices and sell your product and make use of your time while you're in there?
Well, a lot of that happens before you go into the call. So it's what I call pre-planning. And we've got a iPad that we have data on there. So a lot of times I like to go in and look to see what insurance plans they may have, because a lot of what the doctor is using is based upon their access. And when I mean access is what are the insurance companies telling him to write. And it may not even be him. It could be his PA, it could be the nurse, it could be someone else in that office influencing. So yes, the doctor is important, but there's also other people in that office. So you always want to make what I call a total office call. And you want to go in there and you want to find out who are the key players that are making that decision. And one of the best questions is, you know, Dr. Garcia, I know you love my product, but I also want to find out who besides yourself is making that decision. You know, who else can I talk to? And he may say, my nurse over here, Betty. She's the one who sends all my prior authorizations in. So I don't know, I just write it down, and she's the one who fills the script. So in your mind, you're thinking, okay, well, I need to see Betty next time. Have a lunch. Have a sit down, go through all the information. So if you only have a few minutes with that physician, you have to have like an elevator pitch that you go in there and you hit the highlights and you ask for the business. And that's the biggest thing in pharmaceutical sales. When you interview with them, from day one all the way to the end, you have to be closing those guys or women. You have to be closing all of them, because even in the interview process, when you go in an interview, that's what they're looking for. Did she close me?
Right. That's a great piece of advice, because that's absolutely true.
And I'll close at the end of this just to show you what it looks like.
Now, coming into, like you said, the training, the extensive background of the medication, you know, you're prescribing, you're selling the medicine that's going into human body, so it's very crucial that you're giving the exact information. So it's important to be up to date with training. How is it for you to keep up with training? What do you do on your spare time to keep up with the industry?
Well, there's a lot of things that we do for as far as the representatives. The company, I just went back for our phase 2 training, and then I just got back from a national sales meeting, and so we're constantly being updated and trained. And we have a great commercial learning development department. And so they're constantly pushing information out to us and for us to just keep reading. So in my industry, depending on your disease state, you'll always have associations like the American Liver Foundation or the Kidney Foundation, or, you know, there's cholesterol foundation. You know, there's all different kinds of industries out there that will have their own foundations that you can go and just learn about that disease depending on which drug and how it affects the patients.
So let's we'll be back in just a second. We're going to hear a few words from our sponsors, and then we'll get back to our interview.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
Join the conversation. Bauer College's Working Families Initiative is bridging the gap between industry and academia to create a conversation on how organizations can make the workplace more family-friendly. We're talking about flexibility, maternity and paternity leave, and career transitions. For more information about the Working Families Initiative at Bauer College, including upcoming events, visit bauer.uh.edu/workingfamilies.
So welcome back. I'm here with Brianna Garcia, a pharmaceutical sales representative, Bauer alum. Going back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, you mentioned what you loved about pharmaceuticals was that the work-life balance of being able to be a mom as well as be out in the field. Can you tell me a little bit about what your day-to-day life looks like a life as a pharmaceutical sales rep?
Sure. I think it varies for different people, I guess, because of what their interests are in. I enjoy working out, and I love to exercise. It's been a part of my life, and it's like air to me. So I enjoy that. And I would always tell my children when they were younger and little, I would always say, well, do we want a happy mom or just sad mom? Because I would carry them on to the gym with me and different things like that. So being able to work out in the mornings, you know, getting the kids off to school, like I said, they're a little bit older now, so they're a little bit more independent. But when they were little, it was a lot tougher because they were dependent upon me. So someone gave me a piece of advice, because it was very hard for me where I didn't feel like I was where I needed to be in my career. And I've always felt, and I've always struggled with being a mom and a business person. And so what that individual told me is, you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And it made me cry, because for her to say that to me, because she was the VP of sales at Johnson & Johnson, and because I was trying to figure out from her, how did she balance it all? And so she said, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're a mom. And this is where your career is at right now, and you need to enjoy it. There's going to be plenty of time to achieve all the things that you want to achieve in life. But right now, be a mom to those children. That's who they need. And I took that advice because I think women, particularly, they struggle with that, of trying to be in all these places, because we're nurturers. We like to take care of people. And you almost feel guilty for wanting to have a career. And so, but then you love your children and you love your family. And so you're always feeling divided between the two. So I always tell people that be patient and know that this is a season of your life And what you put into your children and give them the foundation will carry on so much more further than anything else you do in your life. And I think that right now in the society, we need that. We need moms to give them that good foundation. And the reason I say that is because when I was full-time, and then once the kids were, I guess about 2, my daughter was about 2 years old, I went back in part-time. So for about 8 years, I was in part-time. I didn't want to have a huge void in my resume, so I was part-time. That was 2 to 3 days a week. And then here just recently, I went full-time. Oh. So it's so true what she said. It really came to fruition of what she was telling me, because now that I look back on that conversation that her and I had that day.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know.
That's so cool. Going back, I picked up what you said, that you worked at Johnson & Johnson, and I remember you telling me you started out at a mom and pop, and they told you it would be so hard, like you couldn't do it. So can you tell me a little bit how you were able to transition to a big pharma, and kind of like the differences and the key factors in the two?
Mm-hmm. Well, once I made that transition, they looked, back at where you were before. And I think the biggest advice that I would give to individuals is try to win as many awards that you can. Because when they went back and looked at my resume, for you to put down that you had, achieved a 90% market share in your territory, or anything that you can give that showed you that you stood above the rest, that you went over and beyond of what was asked for you from the everyday. And that is what they look for. So when I have the position right now with Gilead, I wasn't the most successful or tenured or nurse background or any of that, but I think what really sold them was my awards at Johnson & Johnson. Because out of the 8 years I was there, 7 of those years I was the top producer.
Wow.
Even though I was part-time, I knew that I had to make an impact. And they really wanted me to stay on and go full-time as a manager. But I knew that managers travel a lot. And that's not where I wanted to be right now, especially with the children at their ages and everything. Yeah. So my family will always come first before a career or any high-paying job or something that's going to take me away from them.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Now, what have been the different products that you've been selling? Have you been just in pharmaceuticals? I know we can do pharmaceuticals, and there's also medical devices. Mm-hmm. So have you just been in the pharmaceutical industry?
Mostly pharmaceuticals. The current company that I'm with, it's a biopharmaceutical company. The difference between the two, I'm assuming that there's just one carries a product in their bag where they're sampling, and where I'm at right now, we don't have products, we don't sample. So we're really just going in and talking to them about the benefits and how their patients will benefit from using our drug over another, and giving all the access issues as well, especially with Medicare Part D right now.
Yeah. Now, was it hard for you to, I know, like you said, going in there and understanding the insurances and all of the logistics that go into medicine, mm-hmm. was that a challenge for you to go into from the start, coming from a software company? And just how much, did you have to prep, but going into this industry, some tips for some people who are interested in pursuing that path as well?
There's a lot that you can read on different insurance plans. If you go to some of the major carriers like United or Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, they have a wealth of information on there that you can find out, especially if you're going to interview for, if I were to go in right now and they said, Dinah, we want you to come in and interview for a job at Eli Lilly. Well, I would ask, what drug am I going to be selling? So I would go online, I'd pull up everything that they would have on that drug, and then I would see who is carrying that drug. And so then after that, I would give them the information and then just really study about it. And that'll give you a whole wealth of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Now, how was it going in and speaking to these physicians? Were they personable? I know sometimes people have that stigma of those doctors that just don't want to talk and aren't the most friendly at times.
Yeah, I definitely had my fair share of that. They really, it's a smokescreen. One, you have to understand, a lot of doctors are shy individuals, and if they see a woman coming into their office and wanting to talk to them, to me, it's always been a smokescreen for them to say, get out of my office, I don't want to, and making it short and sweet. So really breaking down those barriers and not coming across as a salesperson, but really coming across as someone here to help you with your business. Mm-hmm. I'm here to help your patients. I'm here to help you. And I'm here to understand how our products can mesh and be an asset. That's what you want to do. You want to be an asset in their office.
So I know you mentioned you were 8 years at Johnson & Johnson, and out of those 8, you received awards. Seven out of those 8 years, you received these great awards that were helping you pursue your career, advance your career forward. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about what you did to earn those awards and how you can stand out in your day-to-day job, to stand out from your peers?
I think the biggest thing is just being there and being available, especially with your manager. You want to have some sort of connection with them and just let them know, I'm always asking questions, like right now in my position, they have 3 different levels where you're a therapeutic specialist, then you're a senior therapeutic, and you get moved up all the way to executive. So I'm constantly checking in with him saying, what do I need to do to get to this level? What do I need to do to get to this level? And have that sort of engagement with them so they understand that, Diana wants to move forward. And when they see that you have that go-getter, that ambition, and that willingness to be better and always be coachable. I see it a lot of times where people get into a certain situation or role and they feel like they know it all. And they're like, you can't tell me anything that I don't know. And to me, that will stifle your growth in anything because there's always room. You're always going to be able to learn from other people. I could learn something from you today that I probably wouldn't know. But you've always got to have that attitude of gratitude and always the willingness to learn and to be better. And that's what I constantly try to do is just, as an individual, strive to be better than I was yesterday. How can I always be, what do I need to do different? What is it that I need to do to keep growing? Because it can be easy to get in any job or any position in life and just be like going through the motions. But if you don't have the mindset of what can I do different, how can I grow, and how can I be a better person in the position or the role that I am. So
yeah, I have a question. This is just more of my curiosity. Now I know as a rep you're split up into territories. Mm-hmm. Within that territory, are you the only sales rep that is responsible, or do you have people working as a team?
It depends. Companies are different the way they organize their groups. I've always been in an industry or company that's always been the only person in that geography. So everything, the numbers, it's always a reflection on me and the work that I'm doing out in my territory. Mm-hmm. So when you go back and you say, how did you stand out? I think that was another way is that I was able to prove that I was able to get these awards and grow this market because it was a result of my work and there wasn't anyone else in the territory.
Right. Yeah, that was just something I was always curious about because I know, some territories are huge and some companies are so big with multiple sales reps within the field. So I didn't know if those were broken up or you would kind of switch day to day. But then also curious as to how you were able to determine your sales if you were working together.
Yeah, I guess you would just, like I said, they call them pods, and I know people who are in those different categories, and it can be challenging because if you have someone who doesn't work and wants to just ride the wave, it's hard to work with someone like that. I think when you're interviewing, you always got to ask yourself, no matter how good the pay is or how good the job may seem, if you're not going to be happy, it won't do you any good to take that job because it will end up stifling you and hurting you in the end because of all the training and the investment that you'll have to make. So you always, I always have this gut instinct about people and about jobs, and I've always felt that wherever I'm at, if I have a good feeling about it, then it's the right thing. And I've been in situations before where I've wanted a position really bad, but I didn't get it. So Sometimes those are a blessing in disguise. So just know that the no's that you get out there eventually are going to lead to a yes. And so just don't get discouraged from those people out there saying, well, you need this, or you don't have enough experience. Just know that eventually down the road you will have some that are going to say yes, and then you can choose which one you feel is a good fit for you.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming. I was so glad to have you on the show, and I'm really so glad to have met you and talk today. So thank you so much.
I'm so glad. So can I ask you, after our conversation that we've had here today, do you feel like you've had a better understanding about pharmaceutical sales? Is there anything else that I can leave you with or help you understand?
No, I absolutely do. I got a lot of information that I was glad to hear and learn more about within the industry, and it's definitely useful to hear it from someone who's been in the field for so long and has so much experience. So thank you so much again, and I'm excited to hear from you again in the future.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. It was great meeting you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series from the C.T. Bauer College of Business, brought to you by the Working Families Initiative. The initiative aims to provide support and access for women in business school and the workforce, and to generate research that organizations can use to implement policies and standards to benefit a diverse workforce. For more information about Bauer College and this podcast series, visit www.bauer.uh.edu/podcast.